Hi everyone, my name is Judy Browse and I'm the Executive Director of the North American Association for Environmental Education, or NAAE as we call it. What I'd like to do today is give a quick snapshot of what environmental education is, what environmental literacy is, and then a few thoughts about the future. So first of all, how do we define environmental education? Environmental education is a learning process, and we use this definition that came from the Tbilisi conference that was held in 1977 when more than 60 countries came together to really help define what the field of environmental ed is. And as you'll see, it's about knowledge and awareness, but it's also about building skills, and it's about fostering attitudes and motivating people and actually creating change. We often talk about the 5 components of environmental education: awareness, knowledge, skills, attitudes, and action. These aren't linear, but together they help create a more environmentally literate person. So there are a lot of essential underpinnings of the field that I wanted to talk about a little bit. One is the field is based on systems thinking. And this means that we try and help people understand that there are complex systems, and within those systems there are different things that interact. So understanding how you do one thing and it impacts another part of the system is really important when you're thinking about complex issues. We're also based on a sustainability platform. That means we can't talk about environmental literacy without talking about social equity and shared prosperity. They're connected. We're all about diversity and inclusion and equity. We're trying to create a more diverse and inclusive movement, and this is a really important part of our field. Environmental education is also about lifelong learning. We like to talk about educating people from cradle to gray. Some people, when they think about environmental education, they hear the word education, they think young kids. Well, kids are critical, but so are adults. And we talk about environmental education as not only educating all ages, but also all sectors. They're both really important, and adult education is a critical part of environmental education. Another important part of environmental education is understanding the importance of place, understanding your local surroundings, understanding where your water goes, where your waste goes, and just your immediate surroundings, but also understanding what holds meaning for you about a place and why do you care about it. Civic engagement is another important element. I mentioned that earlier, but understanding how to get involved in the political process, how to create change in your community or at the national or international level. It's an important part of environmental education. We work in both formal and non-formal settings. So in the formal setting, when you think about it, millions of people are involved in the formal school system. It's a critical pipeline. Everybody goes through it. It's an opportunity to help create the citizens of the world that we want to see. And it's a really important avenue for environmental education. But informal education is just as critical. We actually spend more time outside the formal school system. We're in parks, we're in zoos, aquariums, community centers, churches, and other religious organizations. So the informal settings where people learn outside of school are great opportunities for environmental education. I personally think the best education does happen locally because people know their local environment and their local issues and the local cultures, but it's informed by best practice from around the world, and that's really important. We're based on sound scientific thinking. That's a critical element in environmental education. We're also all about interdisciplinary education. When you think about the environment, it's connected to social studies, it's connected to health, it's connected to arts, it's connected to music. It's all connected, and environmental education is an interdisciplinary approach to learning. We're also about informed decision making and helping people understand how to make better decisions, how to weigh the pros and cons, how to think about what is good information, and how, when you have very difficult choices to make, how do you make the best one for you or for your community. And again, that's tied to looking at how do we think about solutions to complex issues and what's our role in trying to help solve these issues or address the challenges. When people ask me what's special about environmental education, I often say it's the process of learning. And I talk about the experiential learning cycle that we go through over and over again, where people take part in some experience. They process it. They generalize about what does it mean to the bigger world, and then apply it to their own lives. And we go through this cycle, and what it allows us to do is think deeper, dig deeper. It actually can change worldviews. I have seen education change people's lives. And it's because of this cycle of experience and talking about it and processing it that can make a difference. So awareness and knowledge, really important part of environmental education, as I talked about before. But it's also important to go beyond awareness and knowledge and think about action and civic responsibility. And how do we move people to take action? There is so much research in learning what it is that makes people change their behaviors. And there's also a lot of research about how do you think about moving people from caring about something to actually engaging and activating somebody to do something. And there are lots of ways to get involved. And we often think about helping people in communities think about what makes sense for them, whether it's giving money or getting your hands dirty and building a trail or helping to pick up litter or a number of ways to get involved in environmental change. Environmental education is the process to create an environmental literate citizenry. So NAA, working with the National Science Foundation and many other partners, actually tried to define what an environmentally literate person looks like. And it's really someone who makes informed decisions, thinking about the environment and social issues as they're doing that, and is engaged in civic life. That's really important. And there are 4 components to environmental literacy. You might think of literacy as only knowledge, but it's not only knowledge, it's skills or competencies, it's thinking about dispositions, and it's also environmentally responsible behaviors. All 4 are really important to be an environmentally literate citizen. And when you think about just dispositions, if you take any of these, like for example, locus of control, if you don't feel like you're going to be able to make any changes and it matters, you're not going to do it. So it's really important that we think about these dispositions of caring, personal responsibility, self-efficacy, really important to creating the change we're looking for. So caring is very important, but so are all the other elements of environmental literacy. And environmental education is all about both short-term and long-term change. It's education to build overall literacy, and it's also education linked to specific environmental and conservation outcomes. Both are really, really critical. So when I think about the future of environmental education, I think that this is the most important time for the work that we are all trying to do. The need has never been greater. We have growing human and environmental challenges. When you think about any of the trends, it's really troubling. Disappearing biodiversity, severe weather, from intense storms to serious droughts. So all of these issues can get really discouraging. But the good thing is that it couldn't be a more important time for environmental education because we can help bring hope. Educators work with people to help navigate these really tough issues and provide the tools and the know-how about how to respond. EE is a very critical tool in our toolbox for addressing these challenges. And there's a convergence now of so many people and so many countries and so many organizations understanding the important role that education can play in helping to address these issues. So this is the time for all of us to really work together to create the change. And I really believe in the power of education, or I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. And I also believe that none of us can do this alone. We cannot solve these complex problems without working together and learning together. Thank you very much.